So, how has it been since yesterday? All well? Any afterthought? Any comments on what you have got from me yesterday? We are going to start to take bilateral relationship as we did yesterday, and we have a much more structured format of taking our bilateral relationship with our neighboring countries. Yesterday we started dealing with Nepal, and we will come back to Nepal after we finish with Myanmar, because what we did yesterday was a bit storytelling in a way. Today we will consolidate every thought that we had. It is fortunate for me that I have served also in Myanmar, and I served in Myanmar between 2005 and 2008. During that time there was a major event that happened, which was Cyclone Nargis. If any one of you would remember, it came I think in 2008, South Cyclone Nargis, and India was the first country to provide aid to Myanmar at that time. It came via sea, and I was again fortunate to be there as the charge d'affaires. The ambassador had gone to India when the cyclone had come, and if you search for those times when India's help is being given, you will see my picture handing over certain things to the government of Myanmar representatives. So that was a memorable event, and then there were many other things. Kaladan multimodal project started when I was there. I have done the ground survey along with the the authorities of India. We had gone together to that area to do this land survey. So Myanmar and India are in a way a very close neighbor, and we share a lot of history because of the colonial past. The British came to Myanmar sometime in the 19th century and remained there till 1935. And Myanmar got independence in 1948. They set up a democracy under Aung San. But unfortunately he died very early. Aung San had a very close and friendly relationship with Jawaharlal Nehru, but and as you know, his daughter has studied in India, in Delhi. So we have a shared history, cultural ties and geographic proximity. We share a very long border at the northeast. We'll come to the complexities there in a minute, but because of the geography, because of the history and because of culture, the relationship with Myanmar becomes a strategic one, and we have to deal once again with Myanmar with a very tender hand, because the government there is not what is ideal for India or even for the people in Myanmar. How do we? Okay. So historical events. I have mentioned about this. We have signed a treaty of friendship in 1951 while Myanmar still had a democratic government. In 1967 and 86, the two countries signed the land boundary agreement and the maritime boundary agreement respectively. There is something very important about maritime boundary, because Myanmar, Bangladesh and India, they form the Bay of Bengal. And in what way the boundary, maritime boundary between Myanmar and Bangladesh will be established, and between Bangladesh and India will be established, these become a very delicate problem, because there are certain rules under international norms as to what line should be followed into the sea from the land to form the maritime boundary. And because of particular geographical reason, if you draw the lines according to the international rules strictly, then the area for Bangladesh becomes very narrow. And that is the main reason why this issue is a little complex. Myanmar became part of India's neighborhood policy first and its Act East policy in 2014. It has very many implications right from the days when we had Look East India policy in the 1990s. We had started something called a trilateral highway project between India, Myanmar and Thailand during that time, but unfortunately, like many other projects, it is still not finished, and that is one of the perpetual issues that we have, what we term as a challenge in developing any bilateral relationship. We will come to that slide little later. But okay, and Myanmar is also okay. What I was saying is Myanmar is also a member of East Asia Summit, NAM, ASEAN and BIMSTEC. But very, very carefully you must note, even though Myanmar has a British history, it is not a member of Commonwealth. This is a very tricky question. Sometimes it is asked. It can be asked either in prelims or any other form, sometimes in the interview also. Myanmar is not a Commonwealth country's member. So, strategic location, 1643 kilometers of border that you see from here, and there, does it move with the hand? Okay, and there is a very small portion here which it has a boundary with Bangladesh. That boundary became very important during Rohingyas crisis, because most of the people went into Bangladesh directly and some of them came to India. It stands at the center of India, Southeast Asia. There is also a very unique feature of Myanmar. Myanmar is a member of ASEAN countries, but Myanmar is the only country in ASEAN which has a snow-peaked mountain at the top. At the top you have a snow-peaked mountain, part of Himalayas, and it has also access to sea. This is the only country in ASEAN. India has been very concerned with all the developments that have happened in Myanmar since the military regime has taken root there. That is because China has been looking for such opportunities anywhere around India, and it has got that opportunity very early in Myanmar. Chinese have had a very, very productive legal as well as illegal trade within Myanmar. Very few people realize that Myanmar is perhaps one of the most endowed country in terms of natural resources. It doesn't only have a very good agricultural land, but it also has a huge amount of underground minerals and semi-precious and precious stones. Myanmar is the land for jade. I hope you have heard about jade. Though China is known to have and export lot of jade handicrafts, similarly Thailand is also known to export these jade handicrafts, but believe me, each of them, each block has been purchased and sometimes illegally mined from Myanmar. In Myanmar, government owns all the land, and mainly the army generals own all the properties. But obviously, because it is in private hands, many illegal things happen. In Myanmar, every year twice big, exhibition cum sale is done for jade and many other semi-precious stones. And you will not believe me, jade blocks are available which are as big as this room. Huge, 1,000 tons block is available for sale, auction and sale. And when we go to those exhibitions, we see mostly Chinese and Thai trying to examine these. There is a particular way in which they examine with their magnifying glass and water and other things. So, and then you come to the sea, the kind of maritime resources, the kind of fishes and other marine products that is available in the sea portion of Myanmar is unbelievable. And recently, when we have got oil and gas, you can add this richness to Myanmar. So, considering how rich this country is, China has a natural tendency to take as much of this as possible, and Myanmar has absolutely no hesitation in dealing with China. In the current perspective, I will not hesitate to say that China has become almost like a extended territory, Myanmar has become an extended territory of China in almost all respect. Military cooperation, military supplies, suppression of all the rebel forces in Myanmar, everything is being done with the Chinese help. Myanmar also has this unique internal domestic composition that, do we have a map of Myanmar somewhere? If you see the entire land of Myanmar, it has, I don't remember exactly, 9 or 10 different districts. Why does this happen? Okay. So 9 or 10 different regions, and each region is a specific tribe, and that tribe is not a small tribe, it is a government in itself, and the national government has to be formed with the consent of all these tribes. That was the work that was being done by Aung San in 1948. Unfortunately, he could not finish that job and he died prematurely. But because of that, this problem has remained till date, and there has been no consensus between all these major tribes and the central government. That is also the reason why military has had a chance to take power and keep it under its control. The military's hold on the national wealth is almost or more than what we see in Pakistan. In Pakistan, this is happening underground. Here it is overtly being done. All right, so we were talking about the Chinese influence. India has been concerned about this, and that is one of the reasons primarily why India started closely cooperating in the development of Sitwe port. Sitwe port is one of those, what is it called? String of pearls. Sorry? String of pearls is by China. And to counter it, necklace of diamonds. And that Sitwe port is one of those diamonds. That is the importance of Sitwe port. Internal security, you see this 1,643 kilometers of border. Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, I think, Mizoram and Manipur. All these states have border with Myanmar, but only one trans-border road is available, which is Tamu More border. I think it is in Mizoram or Mizoram, Aizawl. It's somewhere here. But the concern is, I have gone to Tamu More border. When you go to Tamu border from Yangon, the road all the way up to the border is first class. It's been built and made wonderfully well. But the moment you go into India, there is an amazing drop down in the standard of the roads. The road between Aizawl and Tamu is not working properly. And there are many reasons for that. In fact, Myanmar becomes also important, and our relationship with Myanmar also becomes important when we discuss India's northeast. Because some of the major problems that northeast is having is also because the trans-border linkage with another country, where the states are not capable and the central agencies are not able to function properly in the wake of the local insurgencies, the insurgent groups within India. These insurgent groups also find a safe haven in Myanmar and vice versa. When certain elements are being chased by the Myanmar police and the government and the army, they cross over to India. And similarly, when the Indian insurgents are chased, they cross over to Myanmar. So that border becomes very, very sensitive, and it is also very porous. Because once again, we do not have a border, demarcated, fenced border. Border is demarcated, there is no problem in demarcation of the border, but it is open border between the two countries. Okay. So, internal security, you have seen. Economic cooperation. India is one of the largest trading partners for Myanmar, though our trade is not very much. It's $685 million in 2022. It is increasing.
Sir, in the internal security, there is a golden crescent working there in Myanmar, Thailand, and I think another country.
Yeah.
And human trafficking, drugs.
Yeah, we will come to that. We will touch on that when we discuss the problems. But you are right, there is a golden triangle where human trafficking is very, very significant, and also illegal drugs and other things, weapons as well. Economic cooperation. There is one thing I would like to highlight here in the economic cooperation and economic importance of Myanmar, is that very few people realize that much of the masoor dal that you take here comes from Myanmar. Myanmar is the largest exporter of masoor dal to India. Similarly, oil and gas ONGC has become very active in promoting India's interest in the oil and gas sector in Myanmar. Trade from the Indian side also, agricultural products are most important, because for most of the other items like automobiles, automobile parts and other things, it is the Chinese who give them legally or illegally. In Myanmar, in my time, 2000 up to 2008, there was no, I think, supplier of first-hand automobile cars. All the cars used to be second-hand. They used to come from China or Thailand. So this is the kind of economic situation that Myanmar has currently undergone. I'll also touch on political importance of Myanmar. Treaty of Friendship you have already seen. Myanmar has always supported India in its bid for permanent membership in United Nations Security Council. And Myanmar looks at India very closely and in a very friendly manner whenever regional and sub-regional cooperation is discussed. So for many issues, Myanmar considers India to be a close friend and someone who does not have an ulterior motive. Unlike many other countries, whether it is Thailand or China, there is, and this is one of the strongest points that India has in its diplomacy to its neighbors. India wants to project that it is dealing in bilateral interest, in the interest of both the countries, not only in the interest of India alone. And also this is a victory of Indian diplomacy, because the more we can convince our neighbors on this, the better relationship we will have with that particular country. And I can tell you safely that even though Myanmar is very heavily dependent on China for economic and many other issues, for mental support, for technical support, Myanmar knows that India is a close friend and it will not stab it in its back. That's very important. Cultural ties. It's a very unique experience to live in Myanmar. It is like the moment you go to Myanmar and start living there, it is as if you have gone back 2000 years in history. Because even now, every morning, a line of monks will start from their monastery and they'll come for bhiksha. They'll go in colonies after colonies. And you will see the tallest monarch at the back and a whole series of monarchs, and with the smallest, tiniest boy or sannyasi who will be at the front. And this whole line will be going through. This is also depicted in many typical Myanmari paintings. You can find them. So that is a living reality today also in Myanmar. Buddhism is a living religion in this country, and it is practiced very, very stringently, I would say, very, very closely. It is followed with perfection. That also is one of the reasons why India-Myanmar cultural ties have the strength that we have today. They have made their stupas in Bodh Gaya. They have a very big presence in Bodh Gaya. India has assisted, the Archaeological Society of India has assisted in developing the Bagan historical site. It's a wonderful place once again. Unfortunately, Indian tourists prefer to go to Paris and US and everywhere. But if we go to these nearby places, Bagan is an amazing, Bagan and Mandalay are amazing places where you will see ancient India's reflection even today, how people used to live in ancient India. So we have finished there, and something that came to my mind was cultural ties. Indian diaspora. There is almost 1.5 to 2 million people of Indian origin living in Myanmar. But you will be amazed to find that almost 90% of them have almost completely converted to Myanmari culture, language and everything. Very few remember, especially the younger generation is losing touch. But there are villages after villages. When we travel from Yangon to Mandalay, in the middle there are villages which are completely Bihari villages. People have come from Bihar and they are still maintaining the old 150, 200 years old custom of Bihar. I had traveled there, and when people came to know that I belong to Bihar, they made special arrangements for me and my wife to organize an event. They had a bhoj in their village and everything. So most of this diaspora is not well off. They are into agriculture, they are into small trade and other things. They are not well off, but they form the backbone of our bilateral cultural relationship as well. The other portion, small portion of Indian diaspora belongs to the business community, who have gone there in search for greener pastures. They are doing different kinds of trading and other businesses. Obviously, it's very difficult to do business in a military regime where we are not very conversant with. But then traders find their way. So, areas of cooperation you have seen. Fourth largest partner and second largest export market for Myanmar exports. Digital payment gateway. This has happened very recently. This is one of the modern areas of cooperation which we have exploited, and it has worked very well. Nowadays, you know that you can pay by rupee even in Dubai or Singapore. But Myanmar has got this done, which is very interesting. India is the 11th largest investor in Myanmar, which is a shame considering that it is a close neighbor, and it should be either at the top or the second largest investor. There are many areas where India can invest, particularly in the development of food processing industry, because there is so much of agricultural product, marine product, which could be processed for larger export, and India is fully capable of doing it. Unfortunately, we have not, or our businessmen have not given that much importance to Myanmar, but that day is going to come soon. The moment Indian economy picks up on its own, neighborhood becomes the first line of action thereafter. Total investment is $1.736 billion in March 2023, which as I said, it is not enough for a neighboring country and as important as Myanmar. Kaladan multi-modal project. It once again is an example of how we, India, treat our international or bilateral projects. It was started in 2008. It was supposed to be finished in 5 years, and it is nowhere near completion even now. The idea was very simple, that the Myanmari goods, or for that matter Indian goods, will travel. Why it is called multimodal transport project is that from ship it goes into the river, where it gets into a boat. The river takes it to little higher up, somewhere here in the Indian border, and from there it gets transported into truck and then travels all the way up to Kolkata. That is why it is called multimodal transport project. So it is an important bilateral project. Whenever we have strengths of bilateral relationship, this must be mentioned, but whenever we have challenges in bilateral relationship, this should also be mentioned, that bilateral projects need to be completed on time. The same state of affairs is with trilateral highway. The trilateral highway is from More Tamu to Myanmar to Naypyidaw to Yangon and to down below to Thailand. I have travelled on this road, and there is a portion here of almost 100 kilometers which is still not working properly. And that is the work which we have been trying to complete even since 2005 when I came, 2008 I left, but till date it has not been done. It is the shortcoming that we have to overcome. Sometimes it moves on its own, but when I want it, it doesn't move. Cultural ties. We have already spoken about this. In restoration of Myanmar's Ananda temple in Bagan, signed land border crossing agreement in 2018 to facilitate travel on both sides. Members of BIMSTEC and ASEAN I have already mentioned, but not a member of Commonwealth, that you should keep in mind. Cooperation in security, which is very important considering it is a neighboring country. Joint military exercises with Myanmar army such as IMBEX in 2018 and 19. Building Sitwe port as counter to Coco Island by China. Important for Indian ties with Southeast ASEAN countries under Act East policy. What you should also remember is that Myanmar is considered as gateway to ASEAN for India. Myanmar is the gateway to ASEAN and it has its importance there. A mutual interest in countering cross-border terrorism and insurgency issues. This once again is somewhere mentioned, not in this slide. What was mentioned earlier about this golden triangle, the insurgents in northeast, the tribals in Myanmar, tribal groups and armies, tribal armies in Myanmar, they both are working together to earn money through human trafficking or drugs or simply sale of arms, sale and purchase of arms. That is a very big concern for the Myanmari government as well. And that is the reason for a closer cooperation that Myanmar has had with India whenever we have wanted to discuss this. There was a strategic, what is it called? Surgical strike also done in Myanmar. I think it is not mentioned in the slide, but it was done sometime in 1995 if I am not wrong. And later on again in 2015, where Indian soldiers went into the Myanmar land and did their operation and came back. Though it is internationally not a very good practice, but Myanmar government understood this and they have kind of condoned Indian operations of this nature. They have not taken it up into international court or something. Similarly, we provide a lot of assistance, intelligence and otherwise, to the Myanmar government whenever they seek our indulgence in dealing with trans-border terrorism or extremist activities. Cooperation in historical and cultural ties, the land of Buddha, pilgrims, okay. The airport, international airport at Gaya, you will be surprised that international port of Gaya was developed primarily at Myanmar government's request. Later on, the Japanese government and South Koreans and others, all of them joined, but it was originally government of Myanmar which had made this request for making Bodh Gaya as an international airport. Now, the other part is, just as I was telling you yesterday, ITEC, Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Programs, and Indian Council for Cultural Affairs Cultural Relations, it should be Relations, ICCR. These two scholarships help us in making a positive impact in Myanmar. If I don't remember exactly how many ITEC seats are given, because each country has a determined slot. For example, in Indonesia there were 22 slots that were given. I am sure in case of Myanmar it will be in the neighborhood of 50. So 50 scholarships, full-fledged scholarships for year-long course or sometimes 2-year-long course is provided with all lodging and boarding and other facilities. They are also given a stipend, book allowance and many other things. Many times we have seen that people who have come from developing countries to India under ITEC course, they go back to their own country richer, not poorer. Everything has been taken care of and they have also made some savings. So it is so good. The ITEC scholarships are really looked forward to by the foreign nationals. Similarly, ICCR course, these are much longer period courses. They are PhD courses in archaeology, history, geography, dances, music, performing arts. So these are obviously much smaller in number because it costs a lot to provide scholarship for a number of years for every candidate. But once again, ICCR scholarships are very, very sought after. I have told you about diaspora, 1.5 to 2 million people. Disaster relief, we spoke about 2008 Nargis, Cyclone Nargis, and similar stories are with cyclones in 2017, 2015 and 2010. You obviously know about our assistance to Myanmar during COVID days. We were perhaps the first responder to Myanmar. China had a very strict policy and Myanmar depended on India for the vaccines. So areas of concern, now we are kind of consolidating all that we have discussed. Human right violation, treatment of Myanmar Rohingyas. Rohingyas is a separate kind of issue and we are not going to deal with this in greater detail because that becomes a question of PSIR rather than GS matter. But whenever there is a human rights violation concern, Myanmar always is kind of looked at with the glasses of Rohingyas. Their treatment of Rohingyas has been very pathetic, especially because at that time when this crisis happened, the leader was Aung San Suu Kyi, and she had got a Nobel Peace Prize for her peaceful attitude in 1991 or so. But her treatment of Rohingyas was heavily criticized world over. And perhaps that is one of the reasons why when she was finally put under house arrest again, there was not much of global reaction, as much as should have been, that a democratically elected leader has been put under house arrest. So this is what we have been dealing with, we have been speaking about, the Golden Triangle, where China, parts of Laos and Thailand, Myanmar, they are all into this triangle where illegal trade of weapons and human trafficking, etc. is happening. And when you see here, it's a big state called Shan state. Shan is a tribe, particular tribe there. That is why it is called Shan state. And they have a very strong army. Shan and Chinese have had underhand dealings with the Shan state rebel army, and most of the jade mining and other semi-precious stone mining is being done in Shan state, and there is also another state here in the neighborhood of Chiang Rai. So all these, and I have not also given you this information. I spoke about jade only in semi-precious stones. Myanmar is also a land where you find almost all semi-precious stones apart from diamond. Diamond is not available, but rubies, the Burmese rubies are so famous and they are unique in character, and they are abundantly available. They are heavily guarded by government regulations, but obviously things go underhand as well. And you will find shades of different other semi-precious stones which are not available anywhere in the world. And if you visit Yangon, there are markets after markets where these semi-precious stones locally available are sold in a very professional manner. So, this issue also should be taken, because there is a region in Shan state itself where what is it? The drugs are being cultivated. What is it called? Opium. And processing is done to bring it to the highest level of concentration these days, and that is exported mainly to countries like Thailand, and through the border there is a very strong trade between this area, this whole area, for this illegal drug trafficking. This whole border is being guarded by Assam rifles. That is also a question sometimes is asked. Assam rifles guards this border, and there is also a very important, this tri-junction highway that you see here between China, India and Myanmar. This trilateral junction is important also from the point of view of our independence struggle. There is a road called Stillwell Road, which is crossing in this neighborhood somewhere. This road, okay, so if you want to clean it, all right. So the Stillwell Road, which was created in the British time, was for facilitating trade. But then when India and later Myanmar got independence, then it became a source of concern for government of India. So after Tamumore border, many people say that Stillwell Road should also be operationalized. But it is very dangerous for India because it is too close to the Chinese border, and the Chinese threat is always there. Increasing dominance of China, we have spoken about this. Trade deficit. Indian economic engagement with Myanmar lags behind in China, though we should not compare it with China, but the fact remains that there are a lot of economic activities, both in terms of trade and investment, that can be done from the Indian side to Myanmar. And if we want to improve our relationship with Myanmar, we will have to give a lot of weightage to this trade deficit area. Border disputes. There are no border disputes as such, but there are disputes at and around the border. Once again, as I said, because of insurgents and extremists moving across the international border, This is the problem that we have. Drugs and human trafficking we have already seen. So, when this is basically from the point of view of main GS2 exam, if the question comes as to what is the way forward for India-Myanmar relationship, these are 4 pointers. More or less you have seen, you have heard from me everything relating to India-Myanmar bilateral relations, and you can make a summary in this way. And I think that will be quite complete. You want to write it down? You can write down. But can I have a glass of water, please? Any question that anyone would like to question or comment, or anything that anyone would like to raise?
Sir, our northeastern states have cultural ties with Myanmar. Northeastern states.
Yeah.
So we have a policy with Myanmar that within the 15 kilometers of both the countries.
Oh, this is not because of the cultural ties. This basically, this is to facilitate living at the border areas.
Marital relations are there.
Sorry?
Marital relations are there.
Marital relations, just as in India-Nepal border, similar relationship are there. You know about the problem that we have in which state? Manipur, the Kukis and the Nagas,
Yes.
and one of those claim to be, or the Nagas claim that the Kukis have come from the Myanmar side and everything. You can imagine what kind of family relationship exists across the border. So it is true. What you are saying is absolutely true.
I say it is misused for that illegal purposes.
You see, the arrangement is that at the border post, when the person from India wants to come to the Myanmar side, he is given a slip to travel for the whole day and come back in the evening. This is checked very, very prominently and in a very coordinated manner. Thank you. On the Myanmarese side, but it is not done so well on the Indian side. So the problem is not with this arrangement, but the problem is with our monitoring of the system that we have. Any other comment?
Sir, if as it is supposed that NRCC would be implied, so if NRCC comes into the game, so how will it affect India's and Myanmar relationship?
I don't think Myanmar government as such is going to have a problem. Myanmar government will certainly take it as an internal issue of India. People might be affected. In the locality, people might be affected, but I presume that even from the Myanmari government side, which is the military junta, they will not have an issue with this. They will be fine to exactly find out who lives in their territory and who does not belong to their territory. So they will not have any problem in implementation of NRCC.
So it was said that the government will be implementing a border across the Indo-Myanmar border. So there is a lot of trade that happens between the two nations directly across the border. So how will that be possible in that case? Because
In which case?
trading, because the borders, the government has an idea of implementing a border across the 1600 kilometer border line between Myanmar and India. So I'm asking what will be the impacts on the trade between two countries, because it happens directly.
Yeah, no, the trade is still going on through that More-Tamu border. Okay, the problem in increasing that trade is the Indian side infrastructure. The trucks do not come very effortlessly, and also there are thousands of checkposts put by the extremist agents and they collect toll taxes, and every extremist group takes money from these trucks and other things. So it is the deficiency on the part of Indian security agencies to make that almost 100 kilometers long road safe and secure, as well as convert it from a single lane to multiple lane highway. You understand? I hope I am answering your question properly. Is this what you had in mind, or you are asking something different?
Sir, I was asking, the present government, ruling government has said that they will implement a border across the Indo-Myanmar border. 1600 kilometer fencing will be done.
Oh, fencing does not harm bilateral trade at all.
But there was
Fencing actually helps it, because all the illegal trade will happen now legally. So it helps in getting trade. And whenever you have fencing, wherever wherever there are border crossing portions, there is special arrangements are made how to deal with trade, trucks, people crossing and everything. So if it is fenced, it will be to the benefit of people's movement and goods movement across the border. Okay? Someone else? Huh.
So what are the common languages spoken in Myanmar?
Good question. I did not expect somebody to ask me this, but Burmese is a language in itself. And I tried to learn Burmese. I did Burmese language course for 6 months. But I reached a place, and it has its own alphabet, which is rather difficult to master. But more difficult is, I reached a place in this language learning where if you have a word, how you pronounce that word makes a different meaning. For example, a word tea, T-H-I-T. If you pronounce it as tea, it means something different. If you pronounce as tea, it means something different. So for each word there are 4 intonations, and each of them have a very different meaning. They are not even related. So at that moment I decided not to spend too much time on this and left it. But it is a very well developed and very good written language that they have, and fortunately it is prevalent in the entire Burmese region, irrespective of the tribals. Some of the tribals have their own small languages, but the Burmese is a very established language. Chinese also have similar features. Chinese have in fact more than 4 meanings of the same word depending on how they are pronounced, but they have a pictorial representation of alphabet, which is not the case in Burma. It has a proper developed alphabet. Okay?
So, influence of Indian language as well?
I would say it's only on the basis of the Indian diaspora. And if you go to the area where the people are from Bihar, a lot of Bhojpuri and Maghi are still old style Bhojpuri is spoken. Then there are people from South India. So there is a group where Tamil is very well spoken. In fact, there is a huge community of Tamil remnants of ancient Indians, not Indian, 150 years old Indian families who were left there. Lot of people had taken part in Subhash Chandra Bose's army, and that is a very important phase of India-Myanmar relationship. You will also know that Bahadur Shah Zafar's mazar is in Yangon. In 1958, after the 57 revolution, revolt or mutiny, Bahadur Shah Zafar was sent to Yangon, and the king of Yangon was sent to Maharashtra. What is that place? Ratnagiri. There is a place in Ratnagiri which is there's a fort in Ratnagiri where the king of Myanmar was brought in exile. There is a very nice book written by Amitabh Ghosh. anyone who is fond of reading should read that book called The Glass Palace. It's a wonderfully written book. It explains that history very, very well. Okay? All right. So, let's touch base with what we have done yesterday on India-Nepal relationship. Most of it we have dealt with. The two nations are bound by ties of kinship, faith, and a commitment to regional cooperation and prosperity. Historical ties dating back centuries, you all have become aware of this, forging unique bonds that continues to evolve over time. Treaty of Sugauli, it should be Sugauli, and it is 1816. The Britishers had signed this treaty basically trying to avoid interaction with the Nepalese side. Perpetual peace and friendship between East India Company and Nepal allowed Britain to recruit Gurkhas for military service. Territory to west of the Kali River to be part of British India. This became a famous problem later on. This that you see, recruit Gurkhas for military service, you should also remember that after that Sugauli treaty, Gurkha tribe as such got divided in such a way that many Gurkhas now live in India as well. They are Indian nationals in Garhwal and many other regions, because I don't know how you can draw something on this. Suppose current day Nepal is this, like this, something like this. Before 1986, the king of Nepal had the jurisdiction on something like this. The king of Nepal had a larger territory, and under the Sugauli treaty, all this area was taken away from them. And this is the portion which is Garhwal and other things, where Gorkhas were there and they became part of India. Treaty of Peace and Friendship in 1950. You see this picture of 1950 treaty. This has become a very big bone of contention, as I was telling you yesterday about the Nepali media and the way they create problems for bilateral relationship. So many of the media people have raised this issue, that you see this picture, this is the Prime Minister of Nepal in 1950, and this is the Indian ambassador of that time. So they say that how can this treaty be considered as a treaty between equals? If it was a Prime Minister signing, the Indian Prime Minister should be signing it. And because they agreed at that time and the Indian government had no problem, they say that right from this stage, it cannot be considered as a treaty between equals. It is clearly a treaty to subjugate Nepal. And it is also just an extension of the Treaty of Sugauli, which was disadvantageous to Nepal. So these are the criticism that media and now political parties in Nepal do to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which is one issue which is also a challenge and a way forward, which we will come later, as what can be done to improve India-Nepal relationship. If we can successfully complete a renegotiated treaty of peace and friendship, it will help us in a big way. The key terms of treaty of 1950 was open border between the two countries, which is another bone of contention now for different reasons. Inform each other of any misunderstanding with any neighboring state. Allows Nepalese nationals to work in India without a work permit, though it was, I think it is not the exact sentence, it was written that each country's national will be allowed to work freely in the other country. But obviously Indians have not taken up this thing, and also Nepalese citizens cannot, let's say, apply for the UPSC exam or things like that. So they cannot take all the jobs, but they have been allowed. This is also a problem because much of the criticism that happens in Nepal is also because Nepalese citizens have been depicted in a very demeaning manner in the Indian films mainly. All the Gurkhas that you see, all the Bahadurs that you see in the movies of 40s and 50s and 60s, they're all of Nepalese origin. It has become a matter of comedy. It had become a matter of comedy. Whenever you want to put some comic part, you put a Gorkha, Nepali Gorkha there, and so that has been taken very strongly, and very Nepalese considered it to be demeaning. And there was a very famous incident where some actress, what was it? Someone like Hema Malini or was someone had mentioned this, that yes, we know many Nepali people in India. I have guards who are from Nepal. So those kind of things were magnified in the media and said that Indians consider us still to be their chowkidars and bahadurs and things like that. So that is another thing which has been playing on them. Nepal shall be free to import arms, ammunition from India. This also is actually, the real statement is little different. It is not shall be free to import. It was that Nepal can import arms and ammunition only from India and from no other country. Something of that line was included there. So all this they obviously is not working properly now, and it needs to be changed. Let's see how we get into this. So areas of cooperation. Economic relationship between the two countries, largest trading partner, largest source of foreign investment, significant source of inward remittance. Someone can guess remittance from what?
From working in India.
And
These people work in India.
and Gurkha population. Many people, in fact, we run in the embassy and in their consulates in Pokhara and all, we run massive pension campaigns every month on 30th and 31st. Crores and thousands of crores of rupees are distributed to the Gorkha pensioners. So that is one of the most important part of this inward remittance. Energy cooperation, border transmission line. This is what we discussed yesterday about Hydel project that is under construction. Once again, you remember I am touching it here only. This project should be completed on time if we want to have its right impact on Nepal. Generally, its time period is about 5 years, but we do not complete this in time. Border petroleum line, Motihari Amlekganj pipeline. These are matters of economic cooperation. Infrastructure, integrated check post at Birganj, Bhairwa and Nepalganj. It's already working. Railway line projects are between Jayanagar to Kurtha via Janakpur. BBIN is Bhutan, Bangladesh, India and Nepal road connectivity project. Then we have diaspora and Indian culture relationship. There is religious connection between Lumbini, birthplace of Buddha. Citizens of Nepal study, employ and trade in India. Then we have sister city status And you can guess which sister cities can be there. Any guesses? Lumbini and Gaya, Ayodhya and Janakpur, and there is one more, Kathmandu and Varanasi. Kathmandu and Varanasi, because Kathmandu has this Pashupatinath, very, very famous temple. And surprisingly, Pashupatinath temple has this tradition that the head priest will always be from Tamil Nadu. So there is always a Tamil head priest in Pashupatinath. Defense cooperation, modernization of Nepal army, joint exercise Surya Kiran is, you should remember this, and Gorkha regiment in Indian army. Development partnership is earthquake, vaccine, Maitri, and many other things that have vaccine diplomacy during COVID. There is a line missing here, but it must be about the sister city status. Challenges in the relationship. Most of it is very obvious. We have discussed about Kalapani, Limpiadhura and Lipu Lake. Anyone wants me to repeat that issue? It is quite simple in a way. This is Nepal and this is India. This is Limpiadhura and this is Lipu Lake. These are the two tributaries of Kali River, which is here. So, as you have seen in the Sugauli Treaty, it said that Kali River will be the border of India and Nepal. But in this initial portion, it is not clear as to what is Kali River, because it is formed by two tributaries. India says it should be this, Nepal says it should be this. That is the dispute. And this came into light recently because India created a road somewhere here to go to Manas Sarovar. There is a trek that goes. So when this road was being constructed, then this matter came into the press in Nepal, and since then it was taken by the political parties and everything for their political benefit. So that is about okay. Kalapani, historical ties, Treaty of Sugauli. Looking beyond India, in Nepal desires to become land linked and being landlocked. Closeness with China is with that relationship. Also, delay in project completion is one of the challenges. Military challenges is India is reversing its policy of recruiting soldiers in Gurkha Rifles regiments, which is a major concern for people at the people to people level. The water dispute, actually it is not the water dispute as such, but it is related with the flooding in North Bihar. So we have put it as water dispute. Security challenge is open border issues, fake Indian currency notes, smuggling arms, etc. I have some additional points here. Do we have a way forward? Resumption of the SAARC summit process, which remains stalled since 2016. This is something which can be put on paper, but it is not very practical. completion of ongoing process of updating the 1950 Treaty of Friendship, India can jointly develop the East-West Railway along with the present alignment of highway built by India. The Madhesi issue, Madhesi is the word which I didn't use yesterday. People of Indian origin who live in the Tarai are known as Madhesis. Especially it is in the Pahadi area, the Madhesi is used as a term of derogation to some extent. Almost the way earlier, or even sometimes even now, the word Bihari is used in North India, other parts of North India. So that was the kind of treatment being given to the Indians living in the Tarai region by calling them Madhesis. And this needs to be taken carefully by the government of Nepal, where we keep on advising them to take proper care of the sensitivities of the Madhesi population. Because as you have seen, what has happened as per the recent constitutional amendment that they did is that, suppose this is Nepal and this is the Tarai area. So the Madhesis were asking for this whole region to be declared as one state, so that they become the majority in this and have their own government. But the government in Nepal has, what they have done is to create states like this, so that the whole Madhesi population has got divided, and in each state they have become in a minority. So that is one of the issues where India needs to closely advise them. And okay, so that is the Madhesi issue. People to people potential, make India a hub for Nepali students, which is in any case happening, because you can see many Nepali students coming here for higher studies, and there is a big amount of goodwill in the educated and rich Nepali citizenry, because most of them have been educated in India. And as I was telling you yesterday, most of the Ranas have been married into Indian kingdoms and other things. Focus on developing its border areas with Nepal with better roads and amenities of interest, utilizing soft power diplomacy, yoga diplomacy, Ayurvedic collaboration, Bollywood influence and Buddhist collaboration, etc. Encourage tourism. That has not been mentioned here. Food management and humanitarian this thing. Tourism needs to be encouraged, primarily with the religious tourism in mind. Pashupatinath is a huge draw. Lumbini and Bodh Gaya are another circuit. Bodh Gaya and Sarnath, other places. In fact, there is a very high potential of making it not a bilateral tourist center but international tourist center. And both countries should work together. So that is a way forward. Mansarovar, the route to Mansarovar can be used by Nepal in a big way to improve relationship with India, because this can be a major source of income for Nepal. Travelers will keep on coming and going, and they will have a good amount of earnings from that. The other way forward can be, it is you need to note it down in a way very carefully, and when you write again with carefully. I have written it the way, keeping away from internal affairs of Nepal. Nepali media accuses India of mishandling the internal affairs of Nepal. But if we write it this way, it means that we are agreeing that yes, we are having a hand there. That is not what it is meant. We should give an impression and we should assure the Nepali population and the people, leadership, that we are not interested in their internal affairs. They have to take care of their own internal dynamics and provide India should provide an alternate narrative, especially to the Nepali media. An alternative narrative is what we spoke of earlier when we spoke of Myanmar. Try to assure that we are there to help them whenever they need us. We do not have any ulterior motive which can be kind of made clear to people who are ready to listen. Power generation we have already handled. That's all apart from this in my notes. Areas of cooperation, we have dealt with it, but it is energy, trade, investment, infrastructure projects, and public diplomacy programs. So, conclusion. Once again, enduring friendship, it remains a cornerstone of regional stability and prosperity. Unlocking potential by addressing challenges and deepening cooperation, the two countries can unlock the immense potential of their partnership, benefiting the people of both nations. India and Nepal's shared aspirations will continue to guide the evolution of their dynamic and multifaceted relationship. Let me see if I have forgotten to mention something. No, that's fine. Now I am open to your comments and questions and observations once again on Nepal. Anyone would like to raise an issue which has come to your notice recently? How does elections in India affect Nepal? What is it that Nepal would be looking for in Indian elections? Any idea? Myanmar is a little far away, and Myanmar will have not much interest in Indian elections, as it is their military regime. They will be able to handle anything. But Nepal has a very strong influence on what happens in India. And you should be careful in noticing anything that happens from the media side in Nepal.
So I think that the Nepalese government is pro-China. So they will want that India should have a government that has close ties with China also. Maybe.
No, this is a double-edged sword, because they also, if they are under Chinese influence, they will also like to have a weak government in India.
A weak government, but according to their interests.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but that is only from the lens of China. But Nepalis are a very, you must not forget, Nepali are a very, very, what should I say, self-assured people. And it so much so that it borders on arrogance. When you talk to an intellectual in Nepal, their statements will be completely, arrogant kind of statements that we can. Obviously, I have lived in 8 countries, and I can tell you that each of these countries consider themselves to be the center of this universe. Everything that happens in the world happens only because of that or to influence them. And Nepal is not an exception. It is more so like that. Anything happens, talk to a Nepali intellectual, he will say that this Nepal had a hand in this. Because of us, this thing has happened. We have influenced that activity. So it is a very typical trait in Nepal, which I have not found in many other countries. Nepalese have a very strong sense of themselves, self-importance. But besides that, any particular thing that you would like me to touch? I understand that we are going to have a break now because of your exams. Is that correct? Everyone is on board with that? And our next lecture is expected only after your exams are over. You will be informed about those dates, but I suppose we have a little bit of gap. You will certainly be preparing for your exams, and I wish you all the best. But try and follow my advice. Keeping what we discussed yesterday, spend some time with the newspapers and analyzing newspapers. It will be of a long-term benefit to you. And give me a feedback when we meet again as to how much did you benefit, did you do that, what did you find, was it beneficial or it was too much of a waste of time. All that I would like to hear from you. Okay? Any other comment? Any question? Or anything that I have left out? Devesh? Anything that I have left out?
So why don't we focus on completion of projects?
No, that is a institutional weakness that we have. In a way, I mean, that has been typical to Indian working style. The whole project is, let's say, 5 crore. Every year the budget will be only for 1 crore. And even at the end of that year, that budget will not be utilized somehow. So the next year the budget gets allocated again. The work is not done. And that way the cost overrun and time overrun continues to happen. Corruption is only one part, but very, very bureaucratic mold of activity. That is one of the reasons why we did not have highways for a long time. I mean, any project, any small project that you see anywhere in most of the states, it takes 10 years for a bridge to be made. Why? It should be done immediately. Within 6 months that bridge should be in place, because it is affecting a lot of public inconvenience. But this is the style we work, not only for bilateral projects outside, but even within India. And this is just an extension of what we have within India. I have no hesitation in saying that after this government has come in, there has been much more focus on speeding up the project, and projects are completed much, much earlier than it used to be done earlier. I hope this gets reflected also on our bilateral projects. And this is needed, especially in our neighborhood. It is very much needed that we give. This will be a part of assurance that we give to our neighbors. All right, what else? I have some time, and I have no problem in letting you ask me anything apart from India, Myanmar, India, Nepal.
So what made you prefer foreign services over administrative?
Sorry?
What made you prefer foreign services?
Oh, that's an interesting story. If you are all having time, I can get into that. I was in IIT Kanpur, and it was in the 4th year. I was in the last batch of 5-year batch. So in the 4th year, when everybody was applying to foreign universities, I didn't have this aspirations to go abroad for higher studies. And that meant I had to work in India. When I looked at the working opportunities, there were 2 categories. One, what we call soap sellers, because people used to go to HLL, Hindustan Levers, and some other companies, which were in 1985, you can imagine there was no management cadre, there was nothing. So IIT graduates, those who were not going abroad, used to join these companies. And one of them was the one bright chap who is today at the head of ITC. Who is that? Who is the head of ITC? He is my batchmate, by the way. We are both from the same batch. And he joined in 1988, 1985, immediately after IIT, and he remained with them. Today he is the CEO of ITC. What is his name here? Huh? Sanjeev Puri. He is my batchmate from mechanical engineering. So that was one group. The other one was taking UPSC. So I didn't want to be a soap seller, that's so to say. So it was civil services. When I looked at, and there was another reason, as an engineer, if I join any engineering service, because I had also taken the engineering service exam, whatever exam I join, at the age when I will be a chief engineer at the age of 55, a 25-year-old will be bossing over me. So I found out who is this 25 years old. He is an IS officer. So why not become an IS officer? I decided to take UPSC exam. When I went into this little further, I saw that in the beginning for a long time, all IS officers, when they serve within a subdivision or a division or even in the state, they are always under the influence of local gundas who are political, who have political masters. And I didn't want to fall into that territory at all. Foreign service was the biggest benefit that I had. It is the best choice that I made ever. And that was the time, even before I had filled up my options, foreign service was my first choice, always. First attempt I didn't go through. I was in the Indian Railway Personnel Service. But then finally, inshallah, I went into the foreign service. And it was certainly a stroke of luck, no doubt. And I don't claim to be a brilliant student in my career. I have done good education, but I won't say that I am one of the most brilliant people in the world. Right? So that has been the story of how I joined Indian Foreign Service, and believe me, I have never regretted it. There is a very fascinating story also. In my intermediate first year, I was mathematics student, and we could take the joint entrance exam for the IIT even in the first year of intermediate at that time. I am talking of 1979. But instead of preparing for IIT, I was trying to learn French on my own from guidebooks and other things. Obviously, I will not be able to get through to JEE. So when I fell flat on my face after the results came out, I left everything and prepared for IIT for the next 11 months. Fortunately, that also came through. So my interest in foreign languages has been very old. In my life, I have learnt almost 10 foreign languages and almost 9 Indian languages. In my foundation course, I learnt Tamil as a language, Indian language, even though I had nothing to do with any language. But I learnt Tamil on my own, Gurumukhi on my own, Gujarati, Nepali, of course, I know, Mathili, Sanskrit I knew in school. By the way, Sanskrit reminds me, I should tell you something very interesting. There's a very famous shlok, and I am always very keen to tell students who want to listen to this. What is the definition of education in Indian system? Have you ever come across this? What is the definition of Indian education? There is a very famous shlok in Sanskrit, which we were told when we were 11 years old in the school. It says, Vidya dadati vinayam. Vidya dadati vinayam, vinaya dati patratam. Vidya dadati vinayam. Vinaya dati patratam. Patratvat dhanam apanoti. Dhanat dharma. Tatah sukham. This is the definition of education. विद्या से विनय आता है. Vinay gives you the capability, patrata, capability to earn respect, money and everything in life. When you have money, only then you can follow religion, the righteous path of righteousness. And only by following path of righteousness, you can have the ultimate happiness. So that is the link in education to life. And that is the basic purpose of education. There is another one which you, perhaps some of you would have learned. Udyameni hi siddhyanti karyani na manorathai. Udyameni hi siddhyanti karyani na manorathai nahi suptas singhasya pravishanti mukhe mriga. सोते हुए सिंह के मुख में कभी कोई हिरन आकर नहीं जाएगा. सिंह को भी कोशिश करनी पड़ेगी हिरन को पकड़ने के लिए. इसलिए कोशिश तो करनी ही है, चाहे आपको कुछ भी चाहिए. उद्यमेन ही सिद्ध्यन्ति, उद्यम तो करना ही पड़ेगा. ऑलराइट, ओके, आई थिंक आई हैव बोर्ड यू इनफ. थैंक यू वेरी मच. हैव अ नाइस डे.